Welcome to the Sankofa Pan-African series. Please support us through Patreon and by buying me coffee so we can continue to bring you this series. Subscribe if you've not yet done so. And please turn on your notification buttons so you know when we have new episodes. And of course, share our videos with all your contacts. Our guest today is Tsitsi Mapepa, who is a New Zealand-based Zimbabwean-born poet, short story writer, and novelist. She studied at Manukau Institute of Technology, where she won an award of excellence in 2016 and the Kairangatira Award in BCA in 2018 before completing her master's in creative writing degree at the University of Auckland in New Zealand in 2020. She is based in Auckland, New Zealand, with her husband and 3 children. We'll be chatting with her about her exciting debut novel, Ndima Ndima. Welcome to the Sankofa Pan-African series, Tsitsi Mapepa. I'm excited to be chatting to you about your exciting debut novel, Ndima Ndima. So before we start chatting, could you tell us a bit of background about the portion of the book you're going to, the novel you're going to read to us?
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Oyinson.
Yes.
Yes. I wrote this book whilst I was studying my master's at Auckland University. The books cover so many things, and but I tried to make all these things link together from the beginning to the end. But otherwise, the book is centered on women, on the things that women experience in their day-to-day life, and it also explores about Zimbabwean culture and the history of Zimbabwe as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
You wove it beautifully into the story of Red Sea, into our family story. It's brilliant what you've done.
Thank you so much.
I love people who find innovative ways to make history come alive. And that's one of the things I think you've done successfully with this novel. So please, let's have our first excerpt. I'm sure our viewers will be dying to hear you read part of this this exciting story.
For the first excerpt that I am reading is from the story titled "The Kiss of Death." The reason why I chose this, it's because throughout the whole book, in so many cases, we see Zua's strength and determination to protect her children and other people. But in The Kiss of Death, I think it also applies to this, this theme, what Zua does in her life. And she puts her daughters to tests, and but at the same time, she's there to protect them. So let's see what we can do about this.
She's an admirably strong woman who is also who is raising admirably strong daughters.
Yeah, I wish I could be like her as well. I think his strength is so admirable and infectious at the same time, when after reading the book, we feel like, oh, you want to be like her. So yeah, I hope it's this same to my readers as well, how I feel about the book as well.
Okay, let's have the first one.
All right, thank you. Nyerezi had always wanted to know what it was like to be so close to a snake. On the day Zua was clearing the bush, she wanted to go with her mother, but Zua wouldn't let Nyerezi go with her. Nyerezi couldn't understand why. She was ready to face what was coming on to her. She wasn't scared of snakes. There was this part of her that wanted to know what would happen if she held one in her palm, felt its coldness in her warm skin. Would it slip off her hand like butter? Perhaps today her wish was going to be fulfilled. Soon, Nyerezi started digging the black soil, but the tiny holes she thought belonged to ants were homes to baby snakes. She looked at other people who were close by in their fields to see if they were also experiencing the same thing, but she noticed they all wore gumboots and the girls didn't. Zua had warned them it was a matter of life and death, but she didn't really tell the girls what to do. The instinct just kicked into their bloodstream. Abigail jumped here and there, screaming while Nyerezi had her fierce face on, as if she were possessed by something, a spirit. The bloodline of her ancestors who hunted wild animals rushed in her veins from her tiptoes to her skull. The tiny, slim reptiles were encapsulated in their little holes under the ground, and with each dig Nyerezi took, they came out fast, twisting their bodies before her. At that time, she wasn't thinking about grasping one in her palm. Nyerezi sliced them into pieces and tossed them by the termite hill with her hoe, where ants crawled on the bloodied, threaded bodies. The heat from the sky shrunk their skin, and they thickened, the blood turned brown. Nyerezi kept her hoe in the air, wide-eyed, scanning for the snakes on the black soil, which was difficult because the snakes were grayish in color and blended in. Soon the girls were exhausted and burning under the hot sun. To entertain themselves, they gathered dried grass and began to stuff it in the wide hole. Zua was on the other side of the bush when Nyerezi took a box of matches from her mother's old basket. Do you want me to show you what Mama did when you were at school playing netball the other day? Nyerezi asked. What? Just show me, Abigail said. I don't have time to muck around. I don't want to be here. I want to go home, you know? Yeah, I know, Nyerezi nodded, but she wasn't concerned about her sister. She had other things on her mind. Nyerezi scratched a match on the brown side of the box. Flames were born, and she threw the stick on the stuffed grass inside the hole. The girls bent their bodies with hands resting on their knees and waited, staring at the hole. It wasn't the second hand ticking on Zua's wristwatch in her old basket which told them how long the girls waited, but each bead of sweat flowing from their foreheads until it dropped on the soil. Perhaps it was the smell of blood from the baby snakes they had just killed, or smoke that lured out what was inside the hole. The top burnt grass had turned into black ashes, but still it produced waves of smoke that disappeared into the atmosphere. Nyerezi could still hear the sparks popping underneath the quiet, dark hole. Just when the girls were starting to lose their patience and their curiosity about what was going to happen, something knocked the burning grass into the air and landed a few feet from them. They leapt back in fear, unsure what had come out of the hole. Long and thick, its tummy, neck, and head were gray. The rest of the body was blackish with a shiny herringbone pattern of scales. It was a black mamba, only a few meters away from them. Its head was raised, mouth open, ready to attack. Nyerezi had never seen a snake that big and angry, and she could feel Abigail shiver next to her as fear took over. The adrenaline of bravery had worn off. Nyerezi couldn't blink. She was frozen. What do we do? Abigail asked, sounding as though she wanted to run away. Nothing, Nyerezi said. Mama! Mama! Zua turned around. Don't move, she shouted. She grabbed some stalks of half-dead grass and walked fast toward Nyerezi and Abigail. The box of matches that Nyerezi had used before by the termite hill lay on the ground. Zua used them to set the stalks alight. They created a dense, dark smoke. Then, cautious of the black mamba, she moved closer to the girls and placed the burning stalks around them. Nyerezi and Abigail stood, crying and trembling, but their mother remained calm.
You see, okay, before I ask you the next question, what I take away from that scene is the fact that she has so imbued her daughters with a sense of strength and power, that they actually tried to take on a black man on their own.
Yeah.
But they also knew to call on her, when you look at it, it's incredible. It's awesome. It's so, like you said, she has mirrored this strength that her children have imbibed.
Yeah. In fact, the other thing is that children sometimes you don't teach them, oh, do this, do that. They learn, by just looking. And the first chapter of this book is where Zua actually eliminated some of the snakes from their background.
Yes.
And when we're watching, and this time she's put her children to test and to see if they can handle, this kind of life, if they can cope in an environment like that. And this story, I think it proves that and shows how these children were going to grow in that environment. And she could see that her children were strong, but they need some, kind of support from her. I think, yeah.
Especially in Nyerezi, she's so much like her mom. Takes after her,
Yeah.
in so many ways.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I love her so much.
Yeah, me too. She's a
Yeah.
really lovable character. So
Oh,
what would you want your readers to take away, after reading this coming of age? It actually is a coming of age, story,
yeah.
but as you have
Yeah.
also told through a history, it's like it's a coming of age for Nyerezi, and to some extent, it's like a coming of age story of the history of Zimbabwe coming into its
Yeah.
own. So what do you
Yeah.
expect your readers to take away from this?
Yeah, for this book, I just wanted other people, like, in the other, continents to see how other people live, in their countries. But I wanted some, people still growing up to see how you can deal with certain situations when you're under stress, when you are facing hardships, when you are facing things that you do not expect in your life. Like, for instance, for Nyerezi, where we have, like, in a story like Goliath, where she had to encounter these men who came into their lives and trying to attack them and do bad things to them.
Yeah,
These kind
somebody
of
tried to
story.
rape her. Yeah. Rape
Yes,
the mother.
her sister and her mother as well, but she had to act on
Yeah.
that. So it teaches, I want it to inspire other children to, whether they are young, whether they are growing up, whether they are grown like adults, people, to teach them how to handle, this kind of situation and how to deal with this kind of situation, to stand by. You have to fight back and do something about it, you see. And we see this with Nyerezi. She's only under 10 and she's already
Yeah.
there trying to protect her mother, fighting her mother. Yeah. I think it's also another instinct that is within us, trying to protect each other, the people we love. So, yeah, I think people should trust their guts to do the right thing. Yeah.
And over and over again in the story, you actually see Zua, standing up, to protect not just her family, but her
Yeah.
community. She's
Yeah.
one who is very committed, to the ideals of what's service to the community, to one's
Yeah.
community should be. It's admirable.
Yeah.
So Ndima Ndima is apparently it's a work that you put a lot of time and thought and apparently research into writing. So what's your process? Can you take us through your writing process?
Yeah, my writing process is different to other writers. I never write things in order. I just write what I feel like. Whatever that comes in my mind, I just go for it. But with Ndima Ndima, I wrote it whilst I was studying, so we didn't have much time to, sit down and, think about a lot of things. So I just, when with any idea that came up with me at that time, you can see this story somehow at some extent they are totally different. If you read
Yeah.
one from
So deep.
section and
Yeah.
then the other one is talking about something else totally different, but I made sure that I had something that linked from one story to the one that I had written before. I just made something, like a few paragraphs just to say, oh, this had happened this month, this last month is when Nyerezi did this, now they are doing this. So I just made sure that I linked them to make it into a novel and stories. Otherwise, the other thing that helped me to make it feel as it is like right now, I use the same characters from the beginning to the end. Yeah.
So that's how
Yeah.
it's an idea to a novel. Well done.
Yeah.
But I must take us back to my favorite character in the book, Nyeredzi. You know.
Yes, you love it so much. I don't love it too. But I think I'm in love with Zoa more. I'm in love with Zoa
Oh,
more.
but
Yeah,
I mean, I admire what you did with the little girl, and I know
yes,
as a writer myself that it's quite challenging to write from the point of view of a child, as you did
yeah.
in most of the of this book. What were the challenges you faced writing from Nyeredzi's perspective? As a child,
Yeah,
how did you overcome those to be able to kind of capture her in such a way that is so believable,
yeah,
when we're reading
yeah,
her, that we're actually in the mind of this, 9 or 10-year-old girl.
yeah. You are right. It is difficult, very challenging to make a story from a child's point
Yeah.
believable. But with Nyerezi, some of these things that she experienced, I never experienced them in my life. But for me to understand human experience, I had to put myself in my character's shoes to yes. So like for especially like dark scenes, it was very difficult because in most of the times when I was like writing those scenes, they left me in tears, and then I was like asking myself, if I am crying after writing a scene like this, what more of people who have gone through this, you
Mm.
see? So I've learned throughout writing this, it taught me to be empathetic towards people who may have gone through these things that Nyerezi had witnessed in this story, and to sort of like write with respect and understanding, let me just say, with empathy, and not try and trigger that trauma back into their lives as they read this book.
Because there are some really traumatic
And,
scenes that you've dealt with
mm,
and situations, that you've
yeah.
dealt with in this. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
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 I
As
believe.
much as I wanted to put these out there, these images out there, and show readers that these things happen in our lives, what can we do to stop these kind of things?
Mm.
I also like to think about these people who've gone through this as well. So yeah, I hope
Be
my
sensitive
readers will understand.
enough to how they might be as a readers,
Yeah.
so that, like you said, so as not to trigger,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
trauma, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have a friend who actually works in that area of trauma, and that's
Oh,
something that's also very important to her, that she's very sensitive. She does not want her work to kind of trigger,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
make them,
Yeah.
yeah.
I do understand.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. That's so
Okay.
true.
Yeah. So, okay. So tell us a bit about the next excerpt you're going to read
Oh,
before
yes.
you read it.
Yes. So I chose a section from a story titled "The Paralyzed." Paralyzed. With this one, I wanted to show. I think it sort of like contrasts with the one that I read before, because in that one we see Zoa's strength, and then with this one we see how what death does, to a parent who's lost a child. So I think death
Mm.
a lot from people. It takes their strength, it takes away their faith. You
Yeah.
lose yourself in like, while you are grieving for the loved one you have lost. So it's not long, but happy
I
to
know
read this part.
it's a really very touching.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a mother
All right.
who was so committed to her children, oh,
Yes.
it must have been
Yeah.
agonizing.
Yeah. Very, very much, very much. So here we go. Paralyzed. Zua was someone who had seen so much death in the war, and the family, in the neighborhood, and the church. But the death of her daughter came when she was not expecting it. How
Mm.
was it right to see her daughter swallowed by death before her? It broke her. Her world was crushed to such an extent that she couldn't deal with it. Zua stared deep between the letters of the Bible and all the words she had planned to say couldn't come out. It was as if her vocal cords were paralyzed. A big black block sat in her chest, and it was now heavy, heavier than the dark skies outside. She gripped the edges of the pulpit tightly. The timing was tight. It had created a weak point in her. She took a while before she could lift her head. The corner of her eye saw Mwezi wanting to get up to come and comfort her, but she gestured for him to stop before he did so. She glimpsed at the choir sitting behind her before a tear dropped onto her cheek. They began to sing. Zua wiped off the tear and lowered her head again. Why would she let herself drown in her own sorrow in front of all those people? Why would she choose these verses so soon after Ruth passed on, when she was at her lowest point? Zua breathed deep and stood tall. She gripped the edges of the pulpit again, trying to pull herself together. Otherwise, she would have ruined the service by her one-time emotional breakdown. She'd never cried in front of her parishioners, but that Sunday morning, she let one tear drop on her cheek. It wasn't her body that had failed her, but her faith. And with the extended period of grief, it was as dark as the darkest night of the soul. There was no light at all.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's it's incredible what you've done. I mean, coming from Zimbabwe,
Mm.
come from a country that with fabulous writers like your namesake Tsitsi Zangaremba,
Ah,
no no name Bulawayo. No,
yes.
like Bulawayo, sorry, you know,
Yeah.
but you've carved a voice, that is also quite unique in the way in which you actually use magical realism, to tell this coming of age historical novel.
Mm.
So what writers have influenced you?
I do have so many writers that have and still influence my writing. But with Ndima Ndima, I just had a couple. I think in terms of writing about culture and religion, I think Chinua Achebe and Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Chinua Achebe, it was Things Fall Apart, and Ngugi wa Thiong'o was the river between the tone and the language in their stories. It sort of like inspired me to write in the same tone as well. It's so beautiful. They are so beautiful written, those books. So, but in terms of like writing about feminist issues, I had Tsitsi Dangarembga, just like you have said, and Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. They inspired me to write without drawing back, expressing those thoughts, the opinion that I have, regarding, feminist issues, things that we think they should be changed, things that we should, be better at as women and men, we should do something in our lives right now to protect our future generations. We should respect and lift each other, in life.
But your
Yes.
style is so also unique, in the way I love what you do with the magical realism. This is an obviously Christian family.
Yes.
Zua is also this custodian of this traditional spiritual power. And somehow or other, there's no conflict. As a matter of fact, they're complementary. I think I really love what you've done, with this idea that Christianity or Islam or any of these other religions, when you look
Yeah.
at them closely, they're really not more, they're not different from our own traditional.
I'm so glad that you understand what I was trying to
Yes,
prove here.
yes, I love
I
what
almost
you
talked about
did.
this with my husband, I was like saying the other day, do with Christianity, religion, they came in and then claimed that they have changed this and that. When you some of these things, we already did them
Yes,
before. They survived in our continent.
There's this part of the book where I think you have Nyerezi ask her mother about
Yeah,
reincarnation, and she says, "Is that not what Christianity? I mean, what Christ did? Did Christ not? You
yeah,
know, it's brilliant."
yes, yeah. But the thing is that yes, definitely, you're so right. And with some of the things that we read in Bible, we already did those, like,
Yeah,
forgiveness and love
yeah,
one another. And,
yes,
with humanity, we already had those things, but I
yeah,
think way sometimes our cultures are portrayed, they are portrayed as if we are evil in
yes,
some way, but never in that way, never in that way. That's
yeah.
why when I was writing this book, I was trying to put in a beautiful image about our ancestors,
Mm,
what kind of good things they
mhm.
have taught us, our values, and what kind of things that we can do now as
Yes,
well, to pass
yeah,
it on to our
yeah.
next generation,
Even
which
in
is
the
why,
water goddess Serena, her
yes,
interaction with Zua, there's
yes,
there's reverence, but there's respect for,
yes,
as a human being, she talks, which is what a lot of our traditional religions have been about. Yes,
yeah,
there are ancestors, but because we are their descent, it was because of us that they existed. There's this
yeah.
interaction, this exchange, this respect and reverence for one another. And you display it beautifully in that scene where her nephew, I don't want to give away too much of the
No,
novel.
that's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind. I think
The
many people have
scene,
read the book. Yes, I
yeah,
think
the scene
it will
where
also
her
encourage
nephew,
people
where she
reading.
was negotiating for her nephew's life.
Yeah.
And Serena had to, kind of say, "Look, I respect you,"
Mhm.
gave in to some of her demands, and it's brilliant.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Yeah,
So
I'm glad you enjoyed this part as well.
I did. So
Yeah.
what can we expect next from you?
Uh,
After Ndima Ndima,
yes.
you've kind
Yeah.
of set the bar really high. So what are you currently working on that we can look forward to?
I'm so worried about myself because I've given all of myself in Ndima Ndima. And now, but I've been working on a novel, and I'm worried that people may see it differently the way, or receive it differently the way they did with Ndima Ndima. But I am expanding with this new novel that I am writing right now. I'm working on. I am expanding on some of the things that we have in Ndima Ndima, such as culture and yeah, also addressing feminist issues in a different way. Yes, but I really love it as well as much as I love Ndima Ndima, and I hope when it comes out into the world, people will also love it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
then
my
and
policy.
recently,
That's my policy as a writer. I have to love
yeah,
what I'm writing. I came to writing out of a love for it, not because I actually went to school. I was writing right from when I was a child. The only one thing I wanted to do in my life was to make up stories. So
yes,
first
and
of all,
I,
I'm enjoying myself through the writing. And if the world likes it,
yeah,
fine. If not, tough.
yeah. Yeah, it's like whenever you think of writing something, you get so excited all of a sudden, and then people inside the house will look at you when you're smiling by yourself and be like,
Yes.
"What? What?" That's when I'm writing because I have my earphones on and I write with music. And then sometimes when I'm writing a beautiful scene, I just burst into a laugh, and then my whole family looks at me like this. And sometimes I'm like crying, and then my children will say, "What's wrong? I don't think you should continue writing that if it's making you cry." But it's the process of writing, but I do love the way I write it. This things that comes into us as writers, they just
Yeah.
makes us
Yeah.
feel more alive and
Mm.
energetic. So happy. So happy. Yeah. And recently I wrote a story for children for Auckland Writers Festival. It was interesting reading the story to my audience. And since then, I haven't stopped thinking about writing more stories for children. I just want to be useful in our children now and the future generations with my skill in writing. Maybe if I could continue writing children's stories in future, I think that will make me more happier. More
Okay,
happier.
we'll look out for some of those as well, some of your children's stories.
Oh, thank you.
Now,
Thank
before
you so.
we go,
Mm.
your cover, it's really very interesting and unique. And
Yeah,
yeah, can you tell us, I'm sure it must have some significant meaning to you because it's
yeah, it
not
does.
so. So can you tell us a bit about, that concept that people have developed into the cover for Ndima Ndima?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking this. Nobody has ever asked me this, but I'm so happy to talk about the cover. So we see here with the book cover was designed by Karen from Catalyst Press,
Oh,
who my
yeah.
publisher. Yes, I think she's read the whole story and got to understand what I was trying to do. So with this cover, like we can see here, we've got red, which represents the red soil we see in the novel. And with this part here at the bottom of the corner represents the mountains and the landscape in the book as well. But here, this bird is the Zimbabwe's bird. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Your national
Yeah.
symbol.
Yes, yes. And what Karen did was that she tried to squeeze in all the elements that are in the book within the bird. If you look close, you can see the flame lily flower,
Can you
which
raise
is the
it up a
Zimbabwe
bit? We are
flower.
not seeing.
Oh, yes.
Go
You
on.
can actually, I think maybe if you look on website and zoom in, you can see all these things
Okay.
that are in here. Yes, yeah, yeah. And we've got the women here carrying clay pots, and we've got the Zimbabwean, the Shona musical instrument, the mbira that we have in the
Mira.
store.
Mhm.
Yes, we've got the sun, the moon, the snakes, the lions,
Oh,
all these things, they are embedded in within the bird, which is so beautiful. And here at the back, this woman here represents all the women in the story. And the L, since the L-shaped house that we see in one of the story titled Fulfilled. But what Karen doesn't know is that our father, like my father, built us an L-shaped house. And
oh.
the thing is that as years went by, he added another section at the back to make it two L's. With this another, I know the other L is looking, the facing the other side, but it doesn't matter to me. But I just found it like, this book is got so much it's linked to me in so many ways, in a way that the book the cover designer didn't know. She didn't know about this. I feel like it's a blessing in disguise because now with the other section that my bed added, we've got now two L shapes within one house. So yeah, I really admire this. But the rest, it is, and with white, it sort of like represents how I dress every day in white. Yeah, which I'm happy about, very happy. She did an exceptional job, so I'm happy about this, very happy. And I
Thank,
really do appreciate hard work.
thank you very
Yeah.
much for taking time out to talk to me about this exciting book. I look forward to reading more from you, and I hope
Oh,
readers enjoy it as much, our viewers enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed reading it. So
oh,
it's
thank you so much.
available on Amazon, or where can viewers who are interested in
Oh, they can purchase this book from Amazon, Apple Books, and they can also purchase it straight from Catalyst Press website. And it's all over the world right now, all over the world. If you just Google it, you'll find all the stores. Wherever you are, just Google any bookstore that is close by. And if you can't find any book there, just give them the title of the book and the ISBN number of the book, and they will order the book for you. Yeah, and I also want to thank you so much for making this time to chat with me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.